Yeah, Assalamualaikum and hi. We from group that we're gonna present the 23.5 evolution of seed plants for adaptation to land. So seed plants is the vesicle plant that use seed during the dispersal stage of their life cycle. Seed contain a sporophyte embryo and stored food within a protective seed coat. The seed coat and stored food allow an embryo to survive harsh conditions during long period of dormancy, which is arrested state, until environmental conditions become favorable. Seed plants are heterosporous, which have microspores and megaspores, but their innovation was to retain the spores and not release them into the environment. So this is the plants, the example of the seed plants, male and female. So the pollination is the transfer of pollen to ovules. In seed plants, layers of sporophyte tissues called integument envelop the sporangium. The whole structure of integument is called an ovule. A female gametophyte develops within a megaspore and produces one or more eggs. If an egg cell is fertilized by sperm, the zygote develops into a sporophyte embryo. The entire ovule develops into a seed. Seeds may remain dormant for years. So this is a figure for the unfertilized ovule. Pollen. The microspores become male gametophyte. Microspores develop into pollen grains which mature to male gametophyte of seed plants. Pollen is protected by sporopollen. Pollen eliminates the need for water in fertilization. When pollen lands in the vicinity of an ovule, it will elongate a tube that discharges on oomosperm into the female gametophyte. So, seed plants is separated by two groups. First, gymnosperms and second, angiosperms.
Okay, so we proceed with the seed plant with cones. Okay, actually seed plant with cone is gymnosperm. Okay, gymnosperm is a vascular plant that produce seeds on the scale of female cones. And for your information, gymnosperm means naked seed, which means the seed is not protected by a fruit. Other than that, gymnosperm also have no flowers, and gymnosperm have needle-like or scale-like leaf. This is four division of gymnosperm, which is conifers, cycads, ginkgos, and genophytes. So I will proceed with conifers. Okay, conifer is the biggest division of gymnosperm, and conifer also is an evergreen plant. Okay, evergreens plants means this plant are only in green in color all year. Next, there were a few important that we can get from conifer, which is they are used to make paper, wood for building construction, and also a waxy residue, which we use in soap, paint, varnish, and some medicine.
Ini the presentation by talk about cycads. Cycads look like ferns except they have seeds. In New Latin, cycads genus name from Greek cycas, manuscript variant of the Quercus accusative plural of cures, a cat of palm. A cycad is a tropical palm-like evergreen plant. Cycads flourish especially during the Jurassic and are represented by four surviving familiars. one of the special cycads, Cycas revoluta, referred to as the sorghum palm, is a common landscape plant. Their leaves generally divide leaf grow in cluster at the top of the stems, and therefore they resemble palms or ferns. Depending on their height, the trunk of the cycad is unbranched even if it reaches a height of 50 until 80 meter, as is possible in some species. Unlike conifers, cycads have pollen and seed cones or separated plants. The cones, which grow at the top of the stem surrounded by the leaf, can be held more than a meter long with a weight of 40 kg. Exhibit the life cycle of a gymnosperm, except they are pollinated by insects rather than by wind. Also, the pollen tube bursts in the vicinity of the archegonium and multifragmented sperm swim to reach an egg.
Now we go to ginkgos. Ginkgos are plentiful in the fossil record. They are represented today by only one surviving species of tree, Ginkgo biloba. Ginkgos are dioecious, which means that a single plant produces either male or female reproductive structure, but not both. Ginkgo trees are resistant to pollution and do well along city. So this is figure the Ginkgo biloba that represent today. So next, the life cycle of gymnosperm. Gymnosperm trees produce male and female cones. Female cones have two ovules on scale, which is egg cells. Male cones produce pollen grains or sperm cells, while when scatters pollen grains, which make pollination means transfer of pollen from male structure to female structure. If ovule is fertilized, a seed is formed. Seed grows into a new trees. So these are figures of the gymnosperm life cycle. You can also refer to page 425 to refer the figure. Okay, for the first of all, for the figure, the gymnosperm type of conifer, a pine tree produce male and female cones. Second, A, for the first, each scale on a female cone has two ovules at its base, and the male cones produce pollen grains which contain cells that eventually mature into sperm cells. Next, in time, an egg cells form inside each ovule. The one scatters pollen grains, some trapped in the sticky substance produced by the ovules, and a pollen grain produces a tube that grows into the ovule. Sperm cells move through the tube and join with the egg cell. The ovule develops into a seed. The fertilized egg becomes a seed embryo. Other parts of the ovule develop into seed coat and the seeds store food. And lastly, the wind disperses pine seeds. A seed grows into seedling and then into tree.
Next is Genotopaita. You guys can refer method textbook on page 426. Topetus are represented by three living genera and 70 species of plant that are very diverse in appearance. In all genotophytes, xylem is structure primarily known have archegonia and their strawberry cones have a similar construction. The reproductive structure of some genotype species produce nectar and insect play a role in a pollination of their species. Genoterm, which occur in the tropics, consist of tree or climbing vine with broad laterally leaf arranged in pairs. Ephedra, occurring only in southwest North America and Southeast Asia, is a shrub with small, scale-like leaf. Ephedrine, a medicine with serious side effects, is extracted from Ephedra. Welwitschia, living in the desert of southern Africa, has only two enormous strapular leaves that fray as it get older. Angiosperm are the following flowering plant. They are exceptionally large and successful group in 270,000 of species, 6 times the number of all other plant group combined. Angiosperm live in all sorts of habitat, from freshwater to desert and from the frigid north to the torrid tropics. They range in size from the tiny, almost microscopic duckweed to the eucalyptus tree over 100 meters tall. It would be impossible to exaggerate the importance of angiosperm in our everyday lives. Angiosperm include all the hardwood tree of temperate deciduous forests and all the broadleaf evergreen tree of tropical forests. Also, all herbaceous and most garden plants are flowering plants. This means that all fruit, vegetable, nut, herb, and grains, which are the staple of the human diet, are angiosperms. They provide us the clothing, food, medicines, and other commercially valuable products. Over the past 200,000 years, humans have also artificially selected plants to serve us better, resulting in the cultivation of land as food crops and the other uses. The evolutionary history of man described corn as an example. The flowering plants are called angiosperm because their ovules, unlike those of gymnosperm, are always enclosed within diploid tissue. In the derivation of their name, angio versa refer to the ovary, which develop into fruit, a unique angiosperm fragile. Of angiosperm evolution. Clarify the origin and diversification of angiosperm. Pose fascinating challenger to evolutionary biologists. Angiosperm originated at least 140 million years ago, and during the late Mesozoic, the major branch of the clade diverged from their common ancestor. Example, until recently, the earliest known angiosperm fossil was Archaeopteryx liadensis, dating 134 million years to the Jurassic. Archaeopteryx is a stunning fossil with fruit and flower, giving a glimpse into what some of the early flowering plants may look like. Unlike the soft part of plants, pollen do preserve well as characteristic marking and can be used to date the appearance of a seed plant in an area. Angiosperm diversity. There are the two main groups of angiosperm, monocot and dicot. Basal angiosperm are less derived and include the flowering plant belong to the Aedes genus. Monolichs share some traits with basal angiosperm but are more closely related to.
Okay, so flower plant is divided into two types, which is monocot and eudicote. So we can choose either a plant is a monocot or eudicote by look at their cotyledon, their flower parts, the number of pore in their pollen grain, either the plant is herbaceous or woody plant, their venation, bundles, and their roots, their root types. So for monocotyledons, um, monocotyledon plants usually have one cotyledon. Um, they have three or multiple of three flower parts, one pore in their pollen grain, and usually a monocotyledon plant is usually a herbaceous plant. Other than that, we can look at their venation, which usually monocotyledon have a parallel venation. Next, monocotyledon also have scattered bundles in stem, while they also have a fibrous root system. So for Eudicotyledon, they have two cotyledon. Next, they have 4, 5, or multiple of 4 or 5 flower parts. Eudicotyledons also have 3 pores in their pollen grain, and usually Eudicotyledons plants is a woody plant or herbaceous plant. For the vernation, Eudicotyledon usually is a net vernation. And next, Eudicotyledon also have vascular bundles in a ring and a taproot system for their roots. And that is with all the parts, we can either choose a plant is monocotyledon or eudicotyledons. And for example, we can see the picture in the slide, the example of the flower plants parts. So we will proceed with structure of the flower. Okay, for the first part is petals, or as known as corolla. The function of petal is to attract a particular pollinator. Okay, next we go for carpel. Carpel is the female reproductive organ of a flower, and carpel is also have a few parts, which is stigma, style, and ovary. Okay, next we have sepal. The function of sepal is to protect the flower bud before it open, and also it attached to the flower stalk. So for the last part is stamen. So stamen is the pollen producing part of a flower, which usually with a slender filament, which is divided into two parts, which is filament and anther. Okay, the function of filament is to support the anther, while anther is the part of the stamen where pollen is produced. And that's all for the structure of the flower.
Okay, we go to the flower life cycles. Flower autophorous, which are produce two types of seeds. Megaspores, located in an ovule within an ovary, develops into an egg-bearing female gametophyte, which are called embryostage. Embryostage has 7 cells, 1 egg and 2 pollen nuclei. The matured male gametophyte consists of only 3 cells, the tube cells and 2 sperm cells. During pollination, pollen is transported from the anther to the stigma of carpel. Here, the tube cell produces a pollen tube that carries the two sperm to the micropyle, which are small opening of an ovule. Flower plants undergo double fertilization. Ovule become seeds and fruit derived from ovary. So this is the figure for the flowering cycles. So for the first, microspores, which are mother cells, make meiosis to produce the microgametophytes, which are pollen from the mitosis, and then they have genitive cells and tube cells, and then the microgametophytes will make, and then during pollination, pollen is transported from the anther to the stigma of carpel. And then here, the tube cell produce a pollen tube that carries the two sperm to the micropyle of an ovule. And then flower plants undergo the double fertilization, which are one sperm unite with an egg, forming a diploid diploid zygote and the other unites with polar nuclei, forming a triploid endosperm nucleus. So the mitosis occur and then meiosis. So the whole ovule will become the seeds and the ovary will drive to be fruit. So that's all from us for the presentation about the topic 23.5. Thank you. Assalamualaikum and good day.